Hi guys, welcome to Shay3 Roadside Repairs channel. This is Mazda 6GH diesel 2.2 MZR-CD 2011. I'm going to replace clutch and work on the front suspension, like replace bushings, springs, shock absorbers and stuff like that. So pretty big job. I'm going to drop the subframe. I'm going to drop the gearbox. I'm going to replace all the stuff there. I will check the crankshaft seal, and I'm going to do it without the lift, which is very important, only using the jack stands and some other stuff. So let's start. I have already unmounted the engine cover. So in order to get the access to gearbox, to the clutch, the subframe needs to be removed. I deinstalled basically kind of part of the intake, so the filter, battery, dot charge pipes, some oil. You see here the oil from intercooler. I have the car. By the way, be careful when you work under the car, just because some dust or something can go in your eyes. I will unscrew this big nut first. So interesting, because this is 34 and it's too small, as you can see. This is 36, kind of too big, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this is not for impact range, but anyway, let's try. I hope it will go, just because I replaced it some time ago. If it doesn't go, I will hit it, but likely it will work. So I replaced the bearing, will have bearing. Okay, so let's see. As you can see, some damages can be here. Okay, I went ahead and disassembled a bit more. Regarding this place, by the way, if you want to be able to easily disassemble it in the future, put copper or ceramic grease here and it will be perfect. You just saw how it was in my case. So I disassembled a bit more. For instance, I disassembled this one. I used such kind of ball joint puller. This kind of ball joint puller works for all places, for this ball joint. For lower one, I also disassembled it a bit, as you can see. I have a short video on my channel, so if you're interested in how I do it, find the short video. But anyway, see the tie rod. So it doesn't keep even the weight of itself and tie rod end. It means that tie rod should be replaced. And here, you see, unfortunately, the seal, the boot went away, and this thing, it creates, it has some play, and this was the reason why my wheel had to play. So I unmounted, this bolt, just because in the future I'm going to disassemble the the strut actually. So I mounted this. I unmounted, this bolt here, and ball joint those bolts. So this is 21mm nut, this is 17mm nut, 17 again, and this one 17. And I will need to unmount, the stabilizer link. Probably I will unscrew it from here or from there. And also I will need to unscrew, that internal bushing, just because I'm going to replace it. So I will unscrew it now while the subframe is in place, just it will be easier, in the future to unscrew it. So this is the internal bolt for lower arm, and this is the bolt, and there is a nut. And as you can see, I have some Shay3 fix here. You see, I'm able to put it. Just because inside there is a nut, and as you can see, I already unscrewed it, but I'm not going to unscrew it completely just because I will unmount the arm when the subframe is dropped. But anyway, so it is unscrewed, and there is a holder. Normally, where is that? There is a holder. You see, this is the right side, and that holder got broken in my case. So that's why I, cut the subframe here. Actually, not I visited my friend and he cut it for me, but he used side grinder here, so not that beautiful, but kind of acceptable. Now it's rusty a bit, so nothing is going to happen here, just metal alloy here is pretty thick. But anyway, be very careful with them. I would suggest to first hit this nut. Also, never use here thread lockers, never ever, especially red, never ever, just because you won't be able to unscrew it, and screw it up to spec. I don't remember exactly, I will double check this, but it's less than 90, I think probably it's 84 Newton meters or 90 something, but less than 100 for sure. Do not over torque them. Okay, so I unscrewed this one and this one, and also I removed the kind of cover here to keep the temperature. It's screwed on plastic things, and this is where gearbox gets connected to the engine. This is another kind of middle engine support. There is a nut. It's part of the subframe, so I'm going to unscrew it only from here. Engine cover looks bad. I will simply throw it away, and replace it. Okay, so since we are going to drop the subframe, this is the rear subframe bolt. So 17 millimeters. I need to unscrew this, and this. And also this metal thing here, and completely the same from this side. Those bolts I won't touch just because they keep the lower arm. So this one, and subframe bolts. I don't recommend you to use here the impact wrench just because there is a chance to damage, the internal kind of nut which is welded inside of the body, so be very careful with that. Okay, so I'm not going to drop the subframe right now, it's just a preparation step. I will unscrew this thing and this one here. Okay, I unscrewed this thing and those bolts as a preparation step. This is how this bar looks like. I will put WD-40 on this subframe bolt. Actually not here, this is stud. And as I said, I'm not going to use impact wrench here just because there is a chance to break it. It's pretty old car. Also there is another this is middle nut, middle subframe nut. I will put WD-40 everywhere here, and the front nut. And also here, as you can see, I will need to unscrew those small nuts. You see one here? This is kind of bumper reinforcement bar, or how it's named, it's screwed there to the subframe. Another nut is there. I hope you see it. So I will show it in a more detailed way a bit later. I need to move my locker a bit. I'm not going to unscrew this bolt. I'm going to unscrew only this one, just because this thing will be on the subframe. Okay, so I will put WD-40 here, and also don't forget about the coolant hose. There is a one bolt, 10 millimeters, I think. From bottom there is an access, so you can remove it. So don't forget to remove it. Actually, from top it's easier. So this bolt looks like this. Time to disconnect the steering wheel shaft. So find the center position now. Now it is easy because you can see the tie rod ends, you know, and then here this plastic thing, you know, here we have kind of holders. It's pretty easy to take it out, and here you see this kind of rubber, you know, and this bolt we need to unscrew. Unfortunately, in my case, I already changed the pinion, you know, here, and I put it in the way that this thing, when steering wheel in the center, you know, it's kind of there. It's not a problem, so I will move the steering wheel a bit now, unscrew this bolt. It is 10 or 12, you know, it's just bolt. Unscrew it, after that move it back to the center position and remove it carefully. Okay, I removed that bolt, it looks like this. I used, you know, this wrench, and now I put it back to the kind of central position, and see, now I need to carefully up, you know, this thing. This rubber, you can actually take it out from there, kind of, you know, like this. This is the rubber. No worries if you lose, you know, the center position on the steering wheel. No worries, it is possible to find it very easily, just because you won't be able to install this shaft, you know, this shaft on that pinion. You can install it only in one position, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I unscrewed this from both sides, just because if it's screwed here, when you move it kind of down here, you know, this bushing, it is under the tension, so to keep it free, you know, I put it like this. Okay, I already unscrewed, you know, these nuts and this nut as well, and also front nuts here, and these nuts are unscrewed as well, so all 6 nuts are unscrewed, but they're still in place. As you can see, engine now. It's easy to move it, just because there is no central support. I keep this wiring on the steering rack as is. I disconnected the steering rack from here, as you can see. So 2 connectors at that side, if you see them, and 1 power connector here, the massive one. So just put this kind of, you know, down, just because it's going to go down with the steering rack, with the subframe, sorry. Clutch slave cylinder. So it was here. I unscrewed 2 bolts here for the clutch slave cylinder, and in addition to that, at the bottom somewhere, I think you see it here, you see 2 holes. It was holder for brake pipe here. However, here we have a hose, so you don't need to drain the brake fluid or something like that. You can simply disconnect this whole thing and put it somewhere here. I also disconnected wires to the gearbox, 2 wires. So you see, wire holder I disconnected here. I unclicked this clip here. By the way, when you disconnect those wires, keep in mind that they are clips, you know, like this. So you need to simply pull it like this from the other side, so don't break them. And here I had a starter, and now it's unmounted. So this is the main, you know, kind of plus wire. Another wire on the, you know, starter goes from here, and also I unmounted the glow plug wire as well, just to have more space here. And in addition to that, I also unmounted the throttle valve just to have more space. And now, as you can see, there is no starter anymore because I unmounted it, and we see the flywheel there. So 3 bolts, one bolt here, 17 millimeters, I think, another bolt here, and another one down there. In my case, I had no issues with the starter. So this is the starter. I will of course reuse it. It's a good starter. Looks like this. Everything here, it's not needed to drop the subframe, but since I'm going to drop the gearbox as well, I'm getting prepared. The next step is, unmount partially, the locker from here. I mean, I think I will stop somewhere here. Be careful with that clips, better to have new. So you need to mount this cover, because you see it connects the subframe to the body, so this thing should be completely unmounted. I will put some pigtail for the drive shaft, just because now it is lying on the lower arm, and when I drop the subframe, the whole thing will go down. And from the right side is completely the same situation, but here I have a wire, you see it should be disconnected from the subframe as well. So, as you can see, I removed a lot of stuff here. So, when you unscrew this, do not push it, by the way, because when you push it, it's very hard to unscrew it in this case. So, I unscrewed it from the top, so I will drop it with the subframe. As you can see, here, I put this, on the pigtail. I already dropped the subframe a bit. I will show you my configuration. So all the nuts from the subframe are removed, so here everything is removed. From this side, basically, this is the wire that I was talking about. It's connected here. From this side, I removed that plastic, cover completely. So, and as you can see, subframe is dropped, and now here I keep it only using the jack from this side. Everything is, disconnected there. I'm checking everything and drop it slowly just to make sure that you won't damage, you are not damaging anything, Very important thing, here, it's, I need to up it a bit, So as you can see, let me show you. So here I use 2 jack stands and the jack, like you see. I need to up it a bit here, like this, just because, yeah, I need to so unscrew all those bolts here. They are small, 10 millimeters, and it's very easy to damage them, so put WD-40. And there are 3 bolts, one here. So be very careful here. Better if you damage them, it's very common. In my case, one of them is damaged somewhere here previous time when I dropped the subframe. So be very careful, and basically the configuration, as you see in my case, jack here, 2 jack stands and jack there. So I'm going to free this thing just because it's not free now, and I will drop the subframe more. I unmounted the subframe studs. Be very careful with them. Module, this is the steering wheel module. Now this is very good access everywhere here. You see? So subframe is removed and we see the gearbox. Now it is super easy to drain. This is drain plug gearbox. It is here. And this is the filler plug. Okay, so I drained the oil from the gearbox, and among the other things, I see I removed the drive shafts. So one couple of words about the right, shaft. Intermediate bearing is connected here, and in order to remove it, you need to unscrew several things from here, and one of those things is this plate. I'm not sure, probably you can remove the intermediate bearing even keeping this plate in place, but for the intermediate bearing it's kind of centered using this thing, and you need to up it, and that's why this plate which is installed here, it doesn't allow you to do that, so you need to unscrew it. It's super easy, small nuts here somewhere, and also this nut, it's very easy to unscrew it using the U-joint, here. So not a big deal, but keep in mind, this plate here should be unscrewed. Also, this exhaust holder doesn't allow to unscrew this bolt, so keep that in mind. I put some WD-40 here, I'll put again and I will unscrew it. I think this bolt will go easily, but here probably you can have an issue, but unlikely. So keep in mind this plate is also, you need to unscrew this. I drained the oil. This is the left drive shaft. So basically it has, kind of stop ring here, so that's why you need to basically kind of pry it and hammer it, And this is the right drive shaft. By the way, notice there is no stop ring, so that you can, once you unscrew, the intermediate bearing, you can easily take it out from the gearbox. So how to remove these cables? They have it's very tricky to understand it when it's mounted, just because it's not super clear how to remove it, and initially I thought that there is a kind of stop ring probably inside or something like that, but it turned out that there is nothing. It is just some kind of plastic. I'm not sure what is the material, but it is kind of insert for this kind of apple here, and you simply need to pull it with the screwdriver. Be careful. In my case, I was able to unmount it without damaging. I think there is something, but I think it's mostly dirt. So just pry it here very carefully. I unscrewed this holder for the exhaust, just because it doesn't allow to unscrew this bolt. This bolt keeps the gearbox, and I unscrewed it a bit. All the other bolts are screwed at this point, so it's kind of safe to unscrew this one, just because it will make it easier for me to unscrew it later. And I removed from here two long bolts, 19 millimeters. I removed the gearbox support, which is connected to the subframe, just because it will simplify the removal of the gearbox a bit. So and one thing, those pipes here, they are also connected to the gearbox here and there. I will unscrew it from top. So this is how this place looks, from top, and all that stuff, pipes and holders from the for the gearbox cables, all that stuff needs to be unmounted. And do not forget about ground here. So it is near this bolt on the gearbox support, so do not forget to unscrew it as well. In order to get an access to this bolt, I removed the HR cooler, and unfortunately I can't move it, just because this coolant hose is too short here. It is, by the way, it's possible to have an access from the bottom. When a lot of things disassembled from the bottom, there is a good access. So on my channel, by the way, there is a video when I cleaned the EGR and I installed this clamp from the top. From here it's possible with two hands, one hand from here, another hand from there, but this time I removed it completely. Be careful with these bolts. This is the EGR valve, but especially on the exhaust manifold, just because so better before this job to put some WD-40 there or try to unscrew it on the car when it's hot. So now the gearbox is kind of free and there are 3 bolts. This one, this bolt and that bolt, this one not actually for the left engine support. I'm going to unscrew them, but only after I support the engine. So I removed this bolt from the gearbox here just in advance, just because it's tricky bolt. So, and besides all that, there are other bolts. This one small bolt here, which keeps the engine and gearbox. This one, this one, this one, and also where was that? This one also should be unscrewed. Okay, so seems like I'm ready to take the gearbox out. I'm going to use hoist, you know, so, and why? So as you can see, there are 2 engine supports, this one and that one. And very important thing here, you can't install a 2-point engine bar. 2-point engine bar, this is the blue one, so see how it looks like. It looks like this. There are just 2 points, one here, one there, and you can put, you know, the engine, I mean keep the engine. You can't use it, and by the way, you can't use 3-point support. So this one, as you can see, this is the 3-point support, again 2 points, and kind of this thing which can go somewhere to the front, so 3-point support. So neither of these you can use. So the issue is that for 2-point support you can't place it on fenders, just because see, this is the fender and the body is actually there, so this is just a fender part. If you put it here, you will bend it very easily. So that's why for this support it's impossible, just because see how it's placed. Okay, let's think about that support. Probably you think that you can put here, you know, some support, but the issue is that you see the place is actually here, and if I put my camera like this, but the support is actually kind of to the left side, you see it, right? So it's not like this, it's like this, it's moved a bit, and that's why when you put the support, you need to, you know, there is the angle which moves the support to the front of the car, and especially here, this surface, it is also has some slope, so it's not exactly even surface here, there is some slope. And the same, you know, from that side. I think you see that there is some slope. In the Mazda manual, I saw that they suggest to use 2-point support bar here when you unmount the gearbox support, which goes to the subframe. As you can see, I don't have it now. Yes, the engine is, you know, it's moving like this, right? And probably it's not good for the engine supports to keep it like this, but I believe it's not a big deal. I can keep it like this just because my 2-point support bar, you know, here just because there is some slope, you know, I can't put it in a stable way. If you think about 3-point support, let's imagine that you put, you know, here 2-point support bar properly and you keep the engine there. But in order to keep the engine here, you need to, you know, basically put the support somewhere here, and here we have only plastic, so there is body part, but it's too low, you know, and again the angle here I tried to put it at this place, basically, kind of, if you I think that there is a line like this there, but it's not super stable. Yes, this place is kind of reinforced a bit, but still, I mean, it doesn't look stable at all for the engine. You can put something here, but again, you know, too low, and you need to put some wood and stuff like that. And you know, when you unmount the gearbox, replace the clutch, you know, the engine tend to move like this, you know, you will be moving it. So basically, it's not super stable way. So that's why the hoist, it is actually the only way. You think probably that let's support the engine from the bottom, but no, this is the oil pan. And you see, I think it is some steel, you know, some alloy, and it is soft. I'm pretty sure that it is soft. It's not, you know, that big aluminum oil pans where you can support the engine from the bottom. And you see, this is the gearbox, this is the engine, and this is the distance, right? So you can't place it here just because you have just this distance. And you can bend even here if you put. So you can, yes, you can, you know, take a piece of wood, place a jack here, but I don't like it just because I will, I'm 100% sure I will bend this oil pan. And in the manual I saw that they suggest to use hoist here when you replace the engine support. So I believe this is how this car is designed. And regarding the hoist, you know, I need to keep it from this place and from that place as well, not only from this, just because the engine otherwise will move like this and you can damage the support from that side. So ideally you need to have some balancer here, you know, kind of bar like this with chains, and keep it with the hoist. In my case I don't have it and I put some chains here. There will be a risk that I will, you know, bend those, but it's not a big deal. You know, this metal is soft here, so it's not a big deal if I bend it. But ideally you also need to have some balancer here. Regarding the hoist, one of the downsides of the hoist that its legs, you know, they are pretty long, but you can place hoist like this or like this. Basically it doesn't matter from which side you put the hoist. We will experiment with that. We will put the hoist like this and see if it goes well. But in order to, you know, keep the place under the gearbox free, you can place the hoist even like this. So let's see how it goes. So the engine now is kept using the hoist, and as you can see, there are chains. I reused suspension bolt here to keep the chains, and I support it from both sides just because it rotates like this, so this chain is a bit longer than this one. So this one kind of main one. And the gearbox support is already unscrewed from here. There is an additional jack stand just in case for the engine. It doesn't touch it now, but just in case. And this is the jack which supports the gearbox. Now it also doesn't touch it, but I will move it a bit higher. And it looks like this from here. So I'm going to go there and keep the gearbox here and here, and basically also unscrew all the bolts, you know, that needed to be unscrewed. I will start with lower bolts and then the higher bolts, and my friend is going to help me and unscrew the upper bolt there. It will be the last bolt, and after that I should be able to play with the gearbox here and move it out. So as you can see, enough space, I think. Yeah. So I removed the wheel knuckle from here, so just brakes are removed and the ball joint is removed, and also the ABS sensor because it's impossible to unmount it from the wheel. So finally I have enough space from this side. So here I removed one big bolt. This one is unscrewed. I was able to unscrew it with the side wrench and hammer it from here. Those two bolts, I don't touch them at this point. Here also that bolt, and here another bolt. Jack, you know, doesn't, you know, show it now. Bolt from there, I show it to you, it is unscrewed now. and one bolt from here is also unscrewed. I'm going to unscrew this bolt first, and then a bit unscrew this one and see if gearbox starts moving a bit. Regarding how to unmount the gearbox easily, so I have two pictures here and let's focus on this one. So this is the engine, this is the gearbox, this is the hoist, and initially in the video I showed you that the jack was placed like this. It is actually bad, and there are two reasons. First reason, you can't move the gearbox to the right side or to the left side, depending on the perspective. And in addition to that, this point is actually not the best point, just because the gearbox is pretty heavy. It's around 50 or 60 kilograms, and when you keep it, here, and when the jack placed here, it's pretty heavy. So I wanted to be here and basically keep the gearbox at this point. Here we have the differential and this point. This is the gearbox support. But anyway, we decided we didn't record it, unfortunately, but we decided to put the jack finally like this from that side, just because it allows us to move the gearbox like this. And I was here and I kept the gearbox, here and here. Here I kept it by my leg, here I kept it by my hands. So it is possible to unmount it this way, but it's pretty heavy and I do not recommend you to go this way. Of course, the best way when you have a transmission jack, right? But we don't have the transmission jack at this point, but it is possible to unmount and mount it using just jack. So we did it this way. Unfortunately, the best way is to put the jack somewhere here, but the hoist, didn't allow us to do, just because we placed it this way. So even if it is possible, I do not recommend you to unmount the gearbox this way. The best way is this one. So basically, gearbox, engine, hoist. Better to place hoist like this, so that you have place here under the gearbox, it is free, and better to place the jack here like this. And you can also be here under the car and keep the gearbox again at this place and at this place, but the jack can be placed at this point, not this point near the engine, but this point, kind of near the drain plugs somewhere. I will show you this point exactly when we will be mounting the gearbox, but this is the perfect way. So just put the jack somewhere here and basically place the hoist here. Ideally buy a transmission jack, just because 50 kilograms plus, gearbox, it's pretty heavy, and even with this approach, when you place it on the jack, it's kind of unstable, it moves, to the right, to the left, so you need to always, keep it. Someone else should help you, should spy everywhere, down the engine, stuff like that. With the transmission jack, floor transmission jack, you will be able to do it alone, which is, even easier. The gearbox is unmounted now. Here I also put the jack stands, but very, kind of see it here, just because it can touch the oil pan, so that's why I put them here. And it works with two jack stands like this for safety purposes. And the hoist now is engaged, but a bit, so I'm going to leave the car like this for one day, or I hope not more, but for one day at least. And another thing, you see that support, it's bended a bit. Better to use something like probably some metal plate here, and chains should be vertical, but I don't believe that it's a big issue, so should work.